If I say that the world is round and someone else says it's flat, that's worth reporting.
Should we still debate whether the Earth is flat?
Like they used to think the sun went around the earth. Everybody say that's scientists. Well, he's so smart.
Other science refuted it.
Right, but back then, like everybody at that time thought that guy was smart. Why at this time do we think that the earth goes around the sun?
There's an overwhelming science that the earth was flat, and there was an overwhelming science that
you'll learn over time.
we were the center of the world.
You're just taking an authority's word for it, and all we're saying is be skeptical. Sure. And while you're being skeptical, there's a bunch of evidence that's totally against the mainstream version. And while you're being skeptical and looking at that evidence, you start compiling more and more of the evidence until you become like me, you know the truth. I don't believe the earth is flat and motionless. I know it is.
There was a lot of things that I thought I knew that now suddenly turned out to be completely different. They can't just impose stuff on us. They have to tell us about it and wait for our consent. And silence is considered consent.
If the sun was 93 million miles away, you wouldn't see that. We see in perspective. That is, the horizon is at our eye level. And as things recede from us, they tend to converge to the center of that horizon line, to a place that's known as the vanishing point. The sun rotates around us and only appears to rise and set because of the way our vision works. Following video without the preconception that the sun rises and sets, but rather moves further away.
The images of your world with curves or as a ball are CGI. You've seen those images all your life. They're paintings, they're computer-generated images, or a little of both. Anything with a curve and the earth is a fake. It's a fraud. You have never with your naked eyes ever seen the earth as a ball from space. You never have. But you just have blind faith that that's what it looks like.
If the Earth were actually a big ball, the horizon should sink as you ascend, not rise to your eye level, and it would dip at each end of your periphery, not remain flat all around, the horizon rising with the camera level and remaining perfectly flat, 360 degrees around.
All the ancient cultures from the beginning of time have depicted a flat, kind of enclosed Earth. So we have this flat Earth cosmology all the way up into the 1900s when a big push was made to live on this round spinning ball flying around the sun. They are basically placing us on a speck of dust flying through infinite space where it was made from this accidental Big Bang, and we really don't mean very much, and everything is kind of an accident, and it kind of leads you into this mentality where things are meaningless. It doesn't matter what you do in life, but the more you research, the more you'll find that you can't prove the spinning ball Earth unless you're suffering from cognitive dissonance and you've been programmed your entire life. All scientific experiments show that we're being lied to about what mainstream science is saying about the Earth.
If a pilot is flying around the curve of the Earth, then he should be dipping the nose down every 5 minutes. He should be dipping the nose down to stay around the curve. That's absolute proof that a plane flies over a flat surface rather than a curved one. people have these laser thermometers. Now, you can actually measure the temperature of the moonlight next to the temperature of the shade of the moonlight, and you'll find the moonlight is colder than the shade opposite from the sun. So the moon's throwing out its own light. The scientific community have not told us this.
This is how you know the heliocentric model is complete BS. In their model, the Earth allegedly spins as it orbits the Sun. They say this happens due to a fictitious and unproven force called gravity. In their model, the Moon orbits the Earth, but the Moon doesn't spin on its axis as it orbits the Earth. So you have to ask yourself the obvious question: why don't the same rules apply for the Earth-Moon relationship as the Earth-Sun relationship? Things fall or rise due to density and buoyancy, not gravity. Gravity has never been proven. If the heliocentric model were true, the Sun and Earth relationship should be the same as the Moon and Earth relationship. Do not be deceived, the whole thing is a strong delusion. The craters on the Moon are a lying wonder. The Moon is a light.
Have you ever heard a heliosexual say, "Man, we've known the Earth is a sphere since the 1500s. Didn't you know Copernicus proved it?" Well, the quote that's sitting right behind me was made by my girlfriend, and we found pretty recently that it kind of contradicts that statement in and of itself. Let's read it together. The Pythagorean teaching of heliocentrism was founded upon hypothesis, and it is not necessary that the hypothesis should be true or even probable. The hypothesis of the movement of the Earth is only one which is useful to explain certain phenomena, but it should not be considered an absolute truth. Nicholas Copernicus, 1543. I mean, coming from the father of heliocentrism himself, pretty odd. Other than that though, that's the video. The last thing that I'm going to need you to do is follow these two accounts that I'm tagging down below, get them to 1,000 followers so that I have live access on them, so that I have 4 accounts with live access, so that I can debunk the heliosexuals in all of their lives and join their lives in debate, because both my accounts are currently banned from going live for 7 days, which is really weird. Everyone else is allowed to debate, but not me. Other than that, check my link tree in my bio. Some good info there under the podcast link. Have a good day.
So what you're saying is that we get a really big laser and point it at the reflector on the Moon, and if we get a signal back, that means that we were in fact there.
Precise. Apollo 15, crewed by Scott, Irwin, and Wharton, set down at the base of the lunar Apennine Mountains, which is where they placed the retroreflector. Wow.
That's the location where Apollo 15 landed on the Moon.
That is so cool.
Initiating laser on retroreflector from Apollo 15. And there's a spike beginning to stand out.
Is that it?
That's the return from Apollo 15. Light returning from the laser retroreflector at exactly the wavelength and distance that we were expecting.
That is so cool. I know you do this like 100 times a year, but it's really thrilling to watch it happen right in front of us. Not just thrilling, but conclusive.
Now, the only way that could happen is if there was a piece of man-made equipment up on the Moon to reflect them back.
There's no conspiracy here.
We've been there. We've done that.
In response, I have pointed out that the Mythbusters are factually incorrect to say that it is impossible to bounce lasers off the Moon's bare surface, because MIT and the Crimean Astrophysical Observatory both succeeded in bouncing lasers off the Moon's bare surface long before Apollo 11. This is documented in both the December 1966 issue of National Geographic and the November 5th, 1963 printing of the New York Times. The passages in question are in the sidebar. In their response to my response, propagandists such as Phil Webb and Astrobrand2 have accused me of taking the Mythbusters out of context, claiming that the Mythbusters never said that it was impossible to bounce lasers off the Moon's bare surface, that I made that up as a straw man. Did I? I managed to meet up with Adam Savage at the amazing meeting held in Las Vegas. I questioned him about this.
There's another question I wanted to ask you about. Yeah. It's more of a correction or something like that.
On the program, basically, when you were bouncing the lasers, you said that it was impossible to bounce them off the moon's bare surface, right?
Yes.
You said it's possible. Are you aware that in the 1962 and 1963, both MIT and the Crimean Astrophysical Observatory also did that? They bounced lasers off the moon's bare surface and received its signal back to Earth. They managed to detect it.
I was not aware of that.
You were not aware of that? Do you have any comments on why the guys at the Apache Point Observatory couldn't get the signal back?
Yeah, well, since I haven't met the guys from MIT who say that they were able to do it, I trust the guys from Apache that said it was not possible unless you had a retroreflector on the surface of the moon.
There you go. More proof than you could ever possibly ask for.
The Earth is flat. You heard me, and I have proof. In the Bible, it is very clear what the Earth looks like. Let's start with Isaiah 40:22. It is he who sits above the circle of the earth, and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them like a tent to dwell in. As we know, a circle is not a sphere, and we know that a tent has a flat surface with a dome. Let's talk Proverbs 8:27. When he established the heavens, I was there. He drew a circle on the face of the deep. As you can see, our face is a circle, and our face has dimensions. Let's talk Psalms 104:5. He set the earth on its foundations so that it should never be moved, meaning we don't orbit. Let's talk a fully formed cloud as well. Fully formed clouds are completely flat on the bottom and are kind of fully formed in a dome. In science class, we learned that water gas takes up every surface that it inhabits. So if our Earth was a globe, wouldn't they be like wrapped around in a circle? But they're not. They're flat on the bottom and look like a dome on top. Let me know your thoughts.
What is Elon Musk trying to show us? In the most recent SpaceX rocket launch, you can see this rocket is stuck. Look at it. It's rotating. The front of the rocket is stationary. The back of the rocket is spinning. But what is it spinning in? Is it the ether of the firmament above us? What's the firmament? Read Genesis 1. Why would they lie about space? There's a lot to gain. Let's see what happens when you mess with the firmament. You ready for it? Yeah, don't mess with God's firmament. Outer space is fake. Wake up.
So coincidentally, the first televised image from space was done on April Fools? What is going on here, NASA? Is NASA just laughing at everybody? Oh yeah, yikes. This is the kind of stuff that just makes it so obvious that these people are just laughing at you for believing their pseudoscience. Uranus smells like farts, say astronomers. They have literally convinced people they can figure out what atmospheres smell like from millions of miles away. That's how indoctrinated all of society is. Also, wanted to remind you that if you want to be unindoctrinated and have a chance of meeting me, shaking my hand, and hanging out with me for a day or two, pick up tickets to the Fed Up Flat Earth Festival. It's going to be happening in New York. I'm going to roll a clip now explaining who's going to be there, who's going to be presenting. I will be presenting, Derek will be there, and more. So if you guys do want to meet me this year, this July, you're going to need a ticket, and I'll see you in New York. I'm rolling the clip now.
Think about how many field trips come here, unfortunately. And they go in and watch that Heroes and Legends thing, and they come out thinking that this is the greatest possible hero that they could ever be. And that's just, they're actors. And we're building them up higher than your father, police, military, all these people that are actual heroes. These are actors working for a government agency. So.
Next.
Hello. I'm going to get one of these signed if that's all right. My name is Justin.
Justin?
Yes.
The IN?
Yes, with an IN.
Where are you from, Justin?
Orlando.
Oh, you're not far from home.
Not too far. No, I'm okay on a picture, but thank you. I do have a question though. Sure. Sometimes when we're watching the ISS footage, you'll see the astronauts sometimes connected to like wires and harnesses. Is that to keep them like in the frame during the broadcast, or what's the reason for that?
No, I haven't actually. You mean while they're inside the shuttle?
Yeah, like when they're inside the ISS, sometimes during the feeds, the broadcast, you'll see kind of
yes,
pulling on their belts or something like that.
I bet that is. I bet that is. I have not personally seen that.
Oh, really?
But I know that they try to be still when they're doing talking to someone, and then they usually try to release and do like a flip at the end or something like that.
Because I've seen the flip before, and it almost looked like a foot was caught like inside something, but there was nothing really there. It was really strange. I didn't know if there was something to kind of like hold them in place or something.
We never had anything like that, but they may have learned over time that it was hard to stay still, and they may have come up with something.
Did you ever think the public would find out that all the spacewalks were filmed underwater?
Thanks,
sir. Did you have any comment on that?
Well, we train underwater.
Oh, okay, but only training?
Only training.
Okay.
Most of the public have no idea that the ISS is located in an underwater neutral buoyancy lab in Houston, Texas. The space station footage that they trick us with is not travelling at 17,500 miles per hour above your head. It's all being filmed here on Earth. An exact ISS replica underwater. Coincidence? It's a pretty simple process. Film your footage underwater, remove the water layer, add in your CGI Earth layer, and cast your spell.
Bubbles in space.
The internet. Okay, level with me here. There's this idea that we live on a ball and it's spinning and traveling through space at unfathomable speeds, yet you can't measure it, you can't repeat it or observe it. At this point, it becomes a religion. What are you holding on to? Do you care what other people think? Are you just worried what your friends and family are going to say? Is it your satellites? Is it your aliens? There are no satellites in the vacuum of space. Satellites are satelloons. You're aliens. Let's say you're an outer space alien fanatic. What if I told you you can have your aliens too? That they come from outer space, not upper space, but outer space. They are extraterrestrials. Terrestrial meaning terrain, meaning land. So what is it? What's stopping you? You've never seen curvature with your own eyes. You never felt the earth spinning. You've never been able to observe and measure these claims. So at this point, it becomes a religion. Do you want to become free? What if there's thousands upon thousands of other continents? What if there is an actual creator? This place was designed for a purpose. This isn't an accident. Would your life change? We're all supposed to live in abundance. We're all supposed to be here for a purpose and learn and love and live. Being on a ball from an accident of a Big Bang, evolved from monkeys, that's no way to live. That's no way to perceive life. You're an accident. You have no purpose. What's stopping you? Look out here. There's no curvature. 120,000 feet, 30,000 feet, it's nowhere to be seen. Where's the curve? It's time to pay attention.
So how does Hollywood brainwash you? Well, one way is like this. They begin their movies on a globe and then they zoom in to whatever the first scene is. Real clever way to brainwash you in the very first scene of any movie you see. Universal Studios is so bad they use this goddamn globe as their logo, as their intro to every single movie that they make. At the beginning of every single movie Universal makes, you're gonna see this spinning globe logo. So it doesn't even matter what the movie's about. You're gonna be brainwashed.
no video, real video of the real Earth spinning in space, which we'd all like to see, actually exists. This is what he's shown. This is last year from the Discover satellite, the Epic camera. This is actually the dark side of the moon. Going past the Earth. There's the Earth spinning. And there's the dark side of the moon. The only problem with that is the moon's supposed to be orbiting the Earth, not just flying straight past it. Your eyes aren't fooled, yeah? You've got your own senses, trust your senses, this is clearly CGI, but you go to NASA's website and they will claim this was taken from 1 million miles away from Earth by the Discover satellite. You'll notice also that the clouds don't really move. I mean, they move across, but they don't change, don't swirl, they don't change direction. 5 hours, 3:50 to 8:45 is nearly 5 hours of time-lapse photography. Those clouds do not move at all.
You ever been mindfucked before?
We don't have a picture of our Earth, except for the nice composite fake images NASA gives you to make sure you keep believing you're in a ball and keep arguing on their behalf, keep fighting for them, keep telling people we went to the moon, simply because you can't let your mind think of the possibility that someone lied to you. The government lied to you. They can't lie. They're my government. Believe me, it's hard for all of us.
That's crazy. The government doesn't lie to people.
I was a huge Star Wars fan. Very, very disappointed to find out that I'm just being programmed. Again, it's a multi-pronged approach to show you they're not trying to pretend that Star Wars is real in any way, but again, it's impressing your brain again and again and again that the space and planets and spaceships and they're all round and everything else, okay? It's Hollywood. So now we've got the ISS. Does this look solid? Does this look like a solid machine to you? But how do we know these are real? We don't. But I tell you what you don't see from the ISS, which you really should and you never do, is one of the 17,000 satellites that are also supposed to be spinning around up there as well.
What difference does it make if it's a globe or if it's flat? They're stealing your money and showing you cartoons and CGI. Wouldn't that make a difference if it was a globe or if it was flat? Because they keep showing you cartoons of a globe. They show you CGI of a globe. They show you Hollywood trickery of a globe. They're stealing your fucking money. That's flat. That begs the question, hey, what the hell have you been showing us this ball for all this time? What have you been doing with our money? Did you guys go to space? Is evolution actually real? Did you guys just make this shit up? See, these are the questions we need to be asking. There might be more land out there to be discovered. There might be a fucking firmament up there. We don't know. They've stolen our mind from us and stuck us on a cartoon ball.
We are being lied to, controlled, manipulated, stolen from, and I'm not going to stop speaking out.
There's a quote by Tesla. Today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments, and they wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality. That's what happened with the globe theory. Everybody knew the world was flat until one day some guy came along and said, "Oh no, it's a ball. We're spinning through space. We're circling the sun." A lie is a lie, even if everybody believes it. And truth is truth, even if no one believes it.
Now, in order to understand this, first you have to understand how magnetism works. For example, right now this compass is pointing to the true North Pole. But let's see what happens to the needle on the compass when I alter the magnetic field. Bam! That's the same thing the North Pole does. It automatically pulls that needle to it. So now this magnet is our North Pole. Now I've already magnetized the center of this flat Earth map by placing a magnet in the center of it, which will automatically pull the needle of the compass to the center of the map, which will be the North Pole. Now let me show you one more time how the needle of the compass is pointing to the real true North Pole right now. But watch when I drop it to a smaller scale. Watch where the needle automatically points to. The center of the flat earth map, the North Pole. Now let's watch as we go east around the flat earth map. Notice the E stays in the direction that we're moving the compass, which is east, and the needle stays fixed on the North Pole. Now let's show you an example of a flight right here. Let's say we're going from Dubai to Asia. Okay, now let's do a flight from Asia to California. Okay, now let's go from California to Europe. Now you notice how the compass pointed east all the way around the flat disk Earth to each one of those destinations? That's because the magnetic North Pole will always be pulling the needle of that compass to the center of the map. So no matter where you go, no matter which country you're in, like right here, here's the United States. This over here is the east, this is the west. The sun comes up on the eastern coast and sets on the west coast. Well, let's move the compass over here. East coast, west coast. The north is always going to be north, no matter which one of these countries you're in. As you can see here, the north is always going to be north, and east is always going to be east. South is always going to be the same south that you've always known it as, and west is always going to be west, no matter which one of these countries you're in, because your compass will always point to the magnetic pole. You have two sides to a magnet, and one's called the North Pole, which is the pull side, and one side of the magnet is called the South Pole, which is the push side. Also known as the positive and negative. Now let me help you understand that real quick. As you can see here, we have a bar magnet. You break that bar magnet in half, each individual piece will have its own north and south pole. Now let's read along. It is impossible to make magnetic monopoles from a bar magnet. If a bar magnet is cut in half, it is not the case. That one half has the North Pole and the other half has the South Pole. Instead, each piece has its own North and South poles. A magnetic monopole cannot be created from normal matter such as atoms and electrons, but would instead be a new elementary particle. Now that alone proves the Big Bang Theory to be a bunch of bull crap, but we'll save that for another video. Anyways, so if this compass is always pointing north, or south always pointing to the ice wall, to the ice wall. Now, what's south of all of these countries on a globe? The Antarctica, right? So when people think, all these countries think the Antarctica's under them, but it's not, it's the ice wall. That's why it pulls to the south. The outer ring is the pull side, or the push side of the magnet. So the ice wall is south, always. Now doesn't that make sense to you? The ice wall is south, no matter where you go on the flat earth. And the North Pole is always going to be in the north. And you can only travel around the world going east, which is this way, or west. Now check out the compass. Where's it pointing to when we're going this way? West, right? All the way around, it's pointing west. And you can look it up yourself. We can only circumnavigate the earth from east to west. Nobody ever in history has ever circumnavigated the earth north to south, which means if you start here in the North Pole, you cannot circumnavigate around back to the North Pole by flying over the south, because there is no South Pole.
It's cold out here.
Yeah, it is. It's like the South Pole.
It's like the deep South Pole, if there was one. There isn't, though.
They don't want you to know that, so that's why it's called no-fly zones, and you're not allowed to circumnavigate over what they call Antarctica, which is not really Antarctica. It's an ice wall, and it ends there, and that's why they banned you from flying over it, because you'll know once you get there you can't fly over it. I mean, it's really, really common sense. So, just in case we have some Glovers that say, oh, yes you can, Well, as you can see here, check it out. Since the North Pole and Antarctica are covered in ice and guarded no-fly zones, no ships or planes have ever been known to circumnavigate the Earth in north to south directions. Okay, now pay attention as we turn the flat Earth map into a globe. Pay attention to the continents. They are still positioned north, east, west, and south. And take a look at the ice wall. What's it become when you turn it into a ball? It becomes the Antarctica. And if you'll notice, it's south of all the continents, just like the ice wall is south of all the continents on the flat Earth map. And therefore, you cannot tell the difference. The only reason that you believe what you believe is because that's what you have been taught to believe without questioning it. Now, this is not something new. You know, everyone has known this for 5,000 years. All ancient civilizations, all the way up. I mean, this map is 1892. It says scientifically and practically correct. This is not something new. This has always been like this. And then the last 100 years, with these fake government agencies, especially NASA in the last 50 years, has convinced you otherwise. Now look, even the ice wall itself is named all the way around it. Now all of a sudden that we live on a globe, all those places are gone, they don't exist anymore. Well, how did they exist in 1892, but they don't exist now? And as you can see right here on the map, it says Antarctic Circle. It doesn't say Antarctic continent, because it's a circle of ice that surrounds the Earth and holds all of the oceans in. So, anyways, that's how the compass works on a flat Earth. Everyone, thanks for watching, and God bless. All I'm offering is the truth.